Good morning, everybody. Today's April 8th, 2026, Wednesday. Let's go over all the games happen on Tuesday, big night. We're getting to the end of the regular season, 2026 regular season. Let's talk about all the games, and we can maybe make some predictions for next year. All right, the first game is the Chicago Bulls beat the Washington Wizards 129-98. Is the Bulls gonna be good next year? Probably not. So when you draft guys, you just gotta be a little bit careful. Really, Josh Giddey is the only guy. He missed this game. So Trey Jones coming in here, like if you've been streaming him for assists, he's just been great. 27 minutes, 9 assists, 20 points. Colin Sexton coming, he needs to be streamed. With Giddey out, 15 points, 4 steals, 7 assists, 9 rebounds. Really good game, but it is versus the Wizards, so everybody played well. Patrick Williams played 31 minutes. This guy is not really fantasy relevant. Rob Dillingham, if he can find himself minutes on an NBA team next year, which I doubt he would on this team, maybe he can get 20 to 25 minutes. They got so many guards on this team. So I think they're definitely going to trade a couple guys. A couple guards. They also have a Fernie Simons. Leonard Miller, 13 points, 8 rebounds, and Isaiah Okoro plays 16. For the Wizards next year, things could be a little bit interesting. Of course, Trey and AD, no surprise, Trey didn't really play. Bob Carrington, 14 points, 7 assists, played okay. Bilo Kalabali, he could be good next year, playing next to Trey and AD, and especially if the Wizards are great, they could play him 30 to 35 minutes. We all know he can rack up defensive stats. Julian Reese, amazing game here. But he's definitely a must roster in the last week or so. The next game is the Timberwolves. They beat the Pacers 124-120, 104. Ant-Man is still out. So Bones Highland, Mike Conley, these guys are getting 20 to 25 minutes. If you want some guard stats, you could stream them, especially if there's a back-to-back. Dante, pretty solid year overall. Rudy had a big game versus a bad Pacers team. 12 rebounds, steal, and 2 blocks. And Julius Randle has been disappointing with Anthony Edwards out. 19 points here, and Dansumu, yes, he's the guy that benefited the most with Ant out. 24 points, and he's a really good pickup. Very solid player off the bench. They already have Naz Reid. For the Pacers next year, they're going to get Tyrese Halliburton back. And, they should be a playoff team in the East, I feel like. Once they got everybody out. And Jay Huff, you could stream him for blocks. Not much to talk about. This is a funny season. Jarace Walker got 20 minutes, had 3 steals. That's great. But nobody else really did anything. A couple guys that you could potentially stream: Ethan Thompson, Quentin Jackson, right? Those guys. But it's still, they get blown out so often. And unless there's a back-to-back, not really interested. The next one, the Milwaukee Bucks, 90-9. They lost to 90, but really surprised the game is this low scoring. Both teams, either they suck or they're trying too hard. AJ Green hit 6 threes. That's good. This guy Jane, he's pretty solid. Now at this point, both Kevin Porter Jr., when you get to the last week of the regular season, even they're just not playing their young guys, which is another reason, you could argue you want to end the regular season early, or a fantasy season early, because when you get to the last week of the regular season, it really depends. Like, if your team is not a playoff team, if your player is not on a playoff team fighting for seeding, they're not playing anybody. As we can see the starting lineup here, Taurean Prince out of nowhere played 37 minutes. Jericho Sims, but none of these Bucks guys, I would say, could have a breakout next year. But Kevin Porter Jr. could be good next year, and same thing with Ryan Rollins. For the Brooklyn Nets, they play this guy Trevon Scott, who doesn't even have a picture on NBA.com. Malachi Smith, that's a new name that I saw. The Brooklyn Nets right now, they're just playing. They're playing their promising rookie, quote unquote, Nolan, just 9 minutes off the bench. Ben Sharaf played 35. You could maybe stream him, but even he doesn't really do much. Right, I remember this guy Wolf for like a week. He was getting some minutes. Now he doesn't even get playing time. So, and Michael Porter Jr. has been missing for the last 3-4 weeks as well. This is what happens when you draft good players on a bad team, good fantasy players on a bad team. The next game, the Miami Heat lost to the Raptors 95-121. There could be a good shakeup for the Miami Heat roster this summer. They got some assets like Tyler Hero, who continue, overall it's a very disappointing year for him. Just 14 points here. Devon Mitchell did his job, six assists. And Kawhi Weir, right? Next year, I would still take him last round, second to last round, or third to last round, assuming they don't have some crazy lineup changes, because this guy just have such insane upside. Played just 17 minutes here with everybody healthy, but someone always gets hurt, and he can come and play 25 minutes, and he gets 25 to 30. He's a top 50 player in category leagues. But a lot of the value coming from efficiency, but the rebounds is really good, the field goal, and he can hit some threes as well. Bam, after scoring 83, 2 for 13, right? Per Larson, Andrew Wiggins had a decent game. For the Toronto Raptors, Scotty next year, expect him to do the same. Same thing he did this year. But I don't know how much more, Scotty, I don't think he's going to ever be a first round player. And I personally would not draft him, the top of early second, because, a lot of his value coming from defensive stats. And, it's a pretty volatile, defensive stats are pretty volatile. I'd rather have guys that can give him, let's say, points and assists and threes, because those, I can't count on those guys. Defense, even you have a lot of defenders on the team, you could still lose. If you draft your team around points and threes, I'm just giving an example, points, threes, and free throws, like, you have a greater chance to win those categories. I mean, assuming you have a healthy team, of course. Have a good chance to win versus defense and blocks. It's especially steals. Blocks, I mean, that's a little bit different. You got Wemby, you got a couple other guys, you're probably going to win 90% of the time. But steals is very random. To be honest, a lot of it's just depending on matchup. Same thing with blocks. Same in some ways points too. But if you have a guy like Jokic, he's gonna put up numbers no matter what. If you have obviously the Jokic is a extreme example. The next game is the Charlotte Hornets lost to Boston Celtics 102-113. Hornets has had a good year, and it's important for these young guys to have a great, get some learnings in the playoffs. And how about our friend LaMelo? If you drafted this guy in the third round, he's just playing super well right now. 36 points, 6 threes versus Boston. Brandon Miller, 20 points, not much else. Brandon Miller is, to me, he's kind of a top 50, top 60-ish type of player, fantasy player. Next year, maybe he could take it to the next level, but he's not... first of all, he's not going to score too many points. He's not going to get too many assists. A lot of these are going through LaMelo, right? Assist, and and then you have Knipple, who's a great shooter. I don't expect Brandon Miller to have crazy usage on this team next year with everybody healthy, so not a lot of upside in my opinion. Of course, people get hurt. And then Diabate next year, if you do, maybe a guy that drafted in the last 1 or 2 round. Right, just solid player, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal here. And Miles Bridges had 13 points and 12 rebounds. Knipple hit 3 threes, 13 points. Knipple is not a great fantasy player, in my opinion. Yes, he hit threes, he's very efficient, but doesn't do a lot of other things. So, he's got a big name now. Everybody knows who he is. But in fantasy, he's not that great. For Celtics, Jason Tatum, man, if you picked him up, I think he just, he played 30 minutes here. He just recovered really, really well. 23 points, and he hasn't really missed a lot of games either. He's just built different. Jaylen Brown played 43 minutes, 35 points, yes. But next year, Jaylen Brown, he's not going to put up this level of numbers. So don't draft him very high next year. And Derrick White hit 4 threes. My God, he took 5 shots. All 5 of those shots are from 3. Vucevic came back, goes 1 for 10. Yeah. I think next year, the streak that Vucevic is a top 50 player in fantasy is going to be over. If he's on the Celtics squad. Vucevic has been a top 20, top 30 player, top 40 player in fantasy the last decade. So, yeah, I guess it's end of an era. He's just very good in fantasy. A big that can grab rebounds, very efficient, doesn't get a lot of defensive stats, but always average 10 rebounds a game with great free throw, great shooter. All right, move on to the next one, the Utah Jazz. Well, yeah. Absolutely no defense being played here. 137, 156. It's kind of fun. If you stream these Jazz players, I don't really expect anything to change. And let's look at the stats. I like John Conchar. He put up a triple double with 2 steals and block. I like Kennedy Chandler, who I'm sure nobody knew who he is maybe a month ago, and he's just been absolutely popping off. He had his struggles, and he's not the best free throw shooter, but 31 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds, and 2 steals. And a lot of times, if you're not a very established player, and you in games like this, you're gonna try super super hard because you basically fighting for your career. And this game, of course, like there's nothing to play for, so it's good to see it. But you're not gonna see this guy. But maybe this guy helped you win your final matchup. I don't even know how to say this guy's name. This guy Bez played straight 48 minutes straight, 26 points, and Bryce Sensabaugh had 18 points. Of course, we can stream all these guys, for the rest of the week. Filipowski, disappointing, had 4 fouls. He never really went off. He had a couple good games here and there, but yeah, he just, because you got too many other guys trying to make make good impressions. Cody Williams, yeah, he's been great, but no, it's gonna be the same thing next year. If you draft Keontae George, if you draft Lauren Markkinen, they're gonna be great. Try to sell them. It's the same story unless they get good next year, which they're still gonna suck. For the Pelicans, Jeremiah Fairs, 40 points. Congratulations if you stream him. 34 points from Jordan Poole out of nowhere. They started Kevon Looney and Derek Quinn. They're just doing all kind of things now. 7 turnovers, but 3 steals and 2 blocks. Amazing. Even Kevon Looney had 12 rebounds and 6 assists. So if you streamed any of these guys, congratulations. But they finally stopped playing Zion. The next game is the Kings lost to the Warriors. Barely beat, the Warriors barely beat them. The Kings is going to be the same situation next year. Maxim Renard, he's a good player, but him having to play behind Sabonis next year, unless they make some lineup changes, but he can put up numbers. I really like Dylan Cardwell next year. Like, he could be a streamer for blocks next year. If he can get consistent 20 minutes, he had 3 blocks here in 25 minutes, 8 points, 4 for 4, 9 rebounds, pretty good stuff. Clifford, they're giving him the keys, a lot of minutes, doesn't really do much with it. And of course, Precious Achiuwa, another decent game with 13.6 rebound, 4 assists, and a steal and a block. So Renard, Precious Achiuwa, and Killian Hayes. If you want assists and steals and threes, you could have him. Killian Hayes every single year, maybe not next year, but he finds himself in a situation he gets some NBA minutes. As we get to the end of the season. For the Golden State Warriors, they did not have Steph Curry. So this game, I remember Charles Bassey. He played 27 minutes, and I'm sorry, they did have Curry. Came off the bench, 17 points. Curry has been disappointing this year, mainly because of the injuries during the most important time of the year. He's gonna get a year older next year. How old is he gonna be? 38. Yeah, probably still a guy that we could draft at the end of first, early second. But the health is biggest concern. He can still put up great now. He can still put up numbers on this team, and we'll see what happens with them this off season. They really gotta take some big swings in the off season. Draymond next year, just missed too many games and doesn't really get that many defensive stats anymore. Great win by the Warriors though. Another year for them in the playing. The next game, well, the Lakers are having some tough luck. No Luka, no Austin Reeves until so they're gonna punt it away. They're probably gonna be the fourth or the fifth seed. Rockets might be the fourth seed. So, either Rockets and Lakers they play OKC in the second round. I'm assuming OKC is gonna get out of first round. Don't really see it both. OKC just a bad matchup, maybe. And the Spurs is a bad matchup for OKC. So they're still the title favorite by far. SGA 25 points, pretty easy work. Chet Holmgren had 2 steals and 2 blocks, 15 points and 10 rebounds. Isaiah Hartenstein plays just 10 minutes. He's a really good fantasy player, but OKC just too good. They're very deep. They got too many good players. AJ Mitchell is a very solid player as well. Jalen Williams, just look at how many guys they play. Obviously, this is also a blowout. It's just crazy how a couple years, because how we're talking about Jazz right now. We're talking about Shea, like we're talking about this OKC team 3 years ago. The same way we're talking about the Utah Jazz right now, and they just turn it around like that. Because Shea used to be the guy that you do not want to draft because they just tank. It's not that long ago. For LA, well, they just punted this. They just punted this game. So Rui Hachimura, like if everybody's out, like we could stream him with a few days left for some points and rebounds. Everybody else can't really trust. Luke Kennard maybe for some threes. He could pop off with some versus some inferior defense. Move on to the next game, the Mavericks and the Clippers. Kawhi is still doing this. Cooper Flag, of course, probably going to be the Rookie of the Year. Honestly, really the last couple of weeks really did it for him, putting up huge numbers. He's going to be really good next year. It depends who. Are they going to? I don't think Kyrie's really going to impact him that much. They're really going to try to grow this guy. Yeah, you got to draft in the 4th round or something. Like next year, yeah, 3rd round, but 2nd round probably not. But yeah, he's a great fantasy player. He can do everything, fairly efficient as well. 25 points here and 9 rebounds and two assists and a block. The rest of the Mavericks, they're not really trying. So, the minutes were low across the board. So it's hard to stream any Maverick guys, in my opinion. For the Clippers, Kawhi, he's having one of his best seasons in the last decade. Not just per game basis. Per game basis, he's always been good. This year, he played so many games this year, which is very, very surprising to everybody at this age. But, that's fantasy, just the least you expect. Oh, I guess he missed beginning of the season, but yeah, he played a lot of games this year. Garland, but can they make any noise in the playoffs? I think they could. But if they get matched up with OKC in the 1st round, look, if they're in the East, they play Detroit in the 1st round, maybe there's a chance they can have an upset. It's just very hard when you play OKC, and they just don't have enough bodies. Brook Lopez had 4 blocks. You could stream him for blocks and threes. Derrick Jones Jr., like he hasn't been getting a lot of defensive stats, but for a little stretch, he was really good. Chris Dunn, good to see him actually getting a contract in this league and playing 30 minutes because he's a very high lottery pick. And he used to be really good in fantasy. I remember, like, he used to be, like, a top 50 player. Like, a guy you draft because so many assists and steals. Really good assists and steals guy when he played for Chicago. The last game of the night, the Rockets, they put together a few nice wins, but, what is their ceiling? The West is just so stacked. It's just so stacked. KD had a okay game, 24 points and 5 3. Jabari Smith had a good game offensively, and Şengün had 6 assists and 14. Şengün is not a guy that I'm going to draft in the 2nd round or early 3rd next year. Every year we think he might break out, but he's got so many guys on this team. It's just not enough for him to and on top, his efficiency is horrible. So I think you just get better players in that range. health-wise, he's got that going for him. Doesn't really get hurt all that often. Amen Thompson had 3 steals and a block, 11 rebounds, 22 points, pretty good. And Reece Shepard, next year they're gonna get Fred VanVleet back, unless there's a trade. But yeah, if he gets 30 minutes, he's a must roster. And the Rockets really need his shooting, but again, like Rockets, their identity is their defense. So if they play him defensively, it kind of, you know, Tari Eason still putting up good numbers off the bench and 31 minutes, 3 steals and 12 points and 7 rebounds. For Phoenix, they had a good year, given, compared to the expectation. Devin Booker, 15 for 16, that's really good. For a first-round player, Devin Booker is, and of course, you have Steph Curry out, Trae Young out, but yeah, he played a lot of games, but he's really bad whenever he played. Not a guy that we want to draft first round next year. I think you just have better options. You might, it's better you take swings somewhere else because, he's proven like, hey, if he's the only guy, he actually doesn't put up that, crazy numbers because the other team, they just keep doubling him, right? I would say last month, that's more like it, but the first half of the season or whatever, when which he was playing without Jalen Green, he really struggled. He really struggled. Jalen Green, 4 blocks is great, 15 points. Yeah. But not a guy that we want to draft inside that top 90, right? Maybe around 100. Just points and threes. And, Mark Williams, he came back, had 3 steals. All right. And Dylan Brooks is also back. Wow. So they kind of have their full squad back. And that's it, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.